Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Totally Unbiased, my show where I talk about everything I love with movies, TV, gaming, anything that's really on my mind, anything I love. I'm here to talk about it in a completely unbiased perspective. And if you don't get the sarcasm, don't worry about it. So, today we are talking about a classic, in my personal opinion, a classic that's not very, I guess it's actually pretty old now that I think about it. We are talking about Scooby-Doo. Now, I know we're not talking about the old school Hanna-Barbera cartoon. We are talking about the 2002 live-action Scooby-Doo film. And I am so pumped to talk about it. So if you haven't seen this amazing classic, I'll give you a quick synopsis of the movie. So it follows Scooby-Doo and the gang as they're just finishing up solving a mystery. Who would have thought? And there's kind of a falling out. You know, they get into an argument, the gang breaks up, and it is super, super sad. Time jump to a little bit into the future. The gang gets back together to solve a mystery on a island called Spooky Island. Very on the nose, as most Scooby-Doo things are. And so the main portion of the movie goes through them solving this mystery on Spooky Island. But we're not really going to get into that too much right now. We're talking about the main stuff that I loved about this thing. So, I love this movie. It was great. Just starting right out of the gate, the characters, like the actor choices, fantastic. Great actor choices. I really feel, especially Shaggy. Oh man, they really got the essence of what I consider Shaggy in his actor choice. So there's this interview that I saw. It was on Facebook, but obviously it's not made by Facebook or anything like that. I can't remember who it was by, but it was an interview by the actor who played Shaggy. And he was talking about how he, it's total tangent, by the way. I go on tangents a lot. If you want a structured video, this is not it. So he was talking about how he got the graspy, Shaggy voice. And what he did for his interview was he sat in his car, or not his interview, his audition. He sat in his car and just started screaming at the top of his lungs so his voice would die, so he could get that kind of scratchy voice. And one of the people working on the movie, I think it was either the director or the casting director, whatever, came up to his window and knocked on the window and was like, are you okay, dude? And of course, it ended up getting him the part and stuff like that. The only actor that I thought took the character in a weird direction was Fred. So Fred, it was, you know, he's cocky, he's in charge, he's really all about himself. But man, they dialed up his all about himself stuff to an extreme. Like, he was really about himself. Like the gag with the book where it was like, it's like the All About Me, written by me, published by me, and all about me kind of joke was, I think it was okay, but I was like, wow, all right, this is kind of going crazy. But besides that, loved all the actors, thought they did a really good job, really fun movie. They really play off the original, you know, so Scooby-Doo characters, if you don't know, they are so one note. Like, holy moly, they are one note. There's not much to them. They all basically have like their 1 to 3 personality traits, and that's about all you really get. Like, Shaggy is hungry and scared. You know, Daphne's damsel in distress. Fred is the leader and the trap maker, and then Velma's the smart person. That's about it. That's their entire characters. You basically get everything from just that. And they all play on those to relative ease, besides Fred, who, you know, goes way out of the line, not out of the line, way to an extreme with his leadership cockiness, which I guess is kind of a modern take, but it was a little weird to me. Everyone besides Daphne. Now, so Daphne's shtick in the original cartoon, I know it's years and decades past the original cartoon, but it obviously is from the original cartoon. You got to go off that. She was the damsel in distress. And that doesn't make a very good character. And so it's kind of become Daphne's thing throughout, you know, the recent iterations of Scooby-Doo, of like what to do with Daphne. You can't just have Daphne being this person that just gets captured all the time. That's her entire character, you know? So instantly they give her a big change. She's now this like karate master, basically, which, whatever, it's fine. It's a way that she's not a damsel in distress. If you got captured over and over and over and over again, you would want to do something about it too. So I guess it is cool that she did something, but I just thought that was kind of interesting of note that they switched her up from what she was originally to this new karate master, which was basically just for one fight in the entire movie, and then we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a little bit. So, getting into the general thoughts of what I had for the movie, this entire movie just oozes a good time. Like it's like a really wet sponge. Like no matter how much you squeeze this sponge to death, you can always get just a little more water out of it. And that's kind of what I think of this movie from start to finish. It's just a great time. It is just a great time the entire time. It's full of funny moments. All the interactions with the characters are great. Like, so Spooky Island, if you haven't seen the movie, which I hope you have, if you're listening to me jabber on about what I think of this movie for who knows how long at this point, it's based, Spooky Island is a college resort. Now, or theme park, with attractions and rides and blah, blah, blah. So I am not too far out of college. So I can kind of relate to the whole spring break vibe thing. But man, this is based on prime late 90s, early to mid 2000s teen life, where it's the way that they talk, it's so exaggerated, and that obviously is played for laughs, and like their outfits and hairstyles is so reminiscent of this time, besides it's pushed up to 11, which is, I think it's hilarious. I thought it was great. And what exemplifies this whole thing to me is the training video. Oh my gosh, the training video for the monsters that are in it. I haven't talked about them at all, but there are real life monsters in it. Who'd have thought? The training video of them to act. So, all right, I guess I'll just rewind just for a second. I'll rewind back. The main villains of the movie are these monsters that take over the human people's bodies in order to be out in sunlight. Because if they go out in sunlight, they're vampire style. They just explode. And they're being controlled by a mastermind. We'll get to that in just a sec. I hope you already know who it is. They really do. They spoil it. They totally spoil it in the movie, absolutely. But these monsters, I assume they didn't really make it clear with what the training video is for. I just assume it's for the monsters to, try and act like these college kids. But it's like, God, I love that training video. It's one of my favorite moments of the whole movie. It's the super cheesy, like what the young people act like nowadays. And like they're calling TV the box, and they're like, oh, I'm all up to date with the fresh new hizzles and fizzles, and God, it was so great. It was awkward comedy at a childhood glee peak. That is so for parents. That was a parent moment for the parents that are watching this movie with their kids. But moving on to a few other amazing moments in this movie. The fart off between Shaggy and Scooby. Oh my God. Like that's one of the prime moments of acting for Shaggy. Because, it's so good and awkward. And Daphne walks in and just sees this whole thing. Or maybe it's Velma. I don't know. It doesn't matter who walks in. It's so great, this fart off between Shaggy and Scooby. And Shaggy just steals it. He steals the whole scene with how amazing it is. Obviously, Scooby's not an actual actor. He's voice acted, but it's a CGI dog. And that's another thing. The CGI of this movie actually is not bad. For being in 2002, like you can tell it's fake. It's obviously fake. The monsters are very, very CGI. And Scooby's not the best either, but it didn't matter. It didn't really matter to me. Like, even when I first saw it, it was very impressive. But looking back now, it's not like I'm like, oh, that looks so stupid. There's just one scene where it looks really bad, and it's where Mr. Montevarius, whatever his name is, the main island owner or whatever, who just so happens to be the main bad guy. Who'd have thought? Spoiler alert. Oh no. He gets captured by the the demon things that I'll get into a little bit more in just a sec. And he's like being held up where he's like leaning back like, oh, and it's the cheesiest thing in the world. It looks like he's falling, but he's not falling. I'm assuming he's just being held up by wires and stuff like that. That part was the only CGI part that I was like, that one was a little rough, but the rest was good. So, moving on to a few other things, Scooby-Doo has a lot of classic things that are incredibly consistent throughout all of its many, many iterations, and one of them is the chase scene. The chase scene when they're being chased by the monsters. Super classic. They are in this as well. And since it's real live action, they're very limited on what they can do with the chase scenes. There's no like magic doorways. That's a super classic Scooby-Doo thing. But the chase scenes were still good. And the thing that kind of stole the chase scene vibe that made it so good for me was the music. All of the music in this soundtrack. Maybe it's my nostalgia goggles for this movie kicking in, but man, I loved it. I loved all of the music. It worked with the chase scenes so well. Now the chase scenes weren't anything amazing. There was the first one when they're all running away and Fred and Velma get captured, and then there's the one on the four-wheeler. Both were solid. They were both solid, but the music really stole that from me. So that's a classic Scooby-Doo thing that works out great in this movie, and I absolutely love it. So getting into the later parts of the movie, starting to get towards the climax, we're starting to figure stuff out. That's when the only real plot holes, okay, I don't know every single plot hole in the entire movie, but the plot holes that I noticed that kind of got me thinking, my thinking glasses, I don't know where I was going with that, kind of kicked in, was with the main bad guys. So the only problems I really had with the movie were two things. I had two problems with like the whole movie. The first one was one of the three main bad guys was the masked wrestler. He was this super generic, old school Mexican wrestler. Just this big old jacked guy. He doesn't really do anything throughout the entire movie. He's basically just like, wrestler, here you go, this is him. And then he like shows his dominance, or how he's like in charge during one of the scenes with like, oh, you better not have let them get away. So, and that's literally all he does. That's his entire thing until like the climax when the whole big finale is going down. He has a fight with Daphne, and so that makes me think the only reason this guy was in the entire movie was just for that one fight scene with Daphne. That was it. That was the entire reason he was in the movie. There was nothing else to him. And of course he loses to Daphne to show how evolved she is as a character. She's no longer a damsel in distress. She's now this black belt ninja lady. And that was it. There's Daphne's character development. Now, I'm not expecting a lot of character development. This is a Scooby-Doo movie. These are so one-note characters. But like that, an entire character. Now, he's not a huge character, but he's one of the main bad guys. Ooh, got some good knuckle cracks in. Hope you guys could pick that up on the mic. Hopefully it wasn't like super loud. But like there's only one super main bad guy, and the other, one guy does literally nothing, and the other guy's the masked wrestler. So there's not much to him, and the only reason the masked wrestler was in there was for Daphne. So not a huge complaint, but it's there. Kind of a wasted character or a worthless. Or the character wasn't really worth much. It was just for Daphne to beat up at the very, very end. And the other plot hole. So I guess we'll get into the main spiel of, fly. Okay, we're good. We'll get into the main spiel of the finale. So, spoiler alert, the main bad guy is Scrappy-Doo. Now, there's a flashback earlier in the movie that shows Scrappy getting kicked out of the crew, which I think is kind of funny. Oh, man, my cats are playing, having a good time over there, which I think is kind of funny because Scrappy-Doo has had a very polarizing history with Scooby-Doo. They loved him, they hated him, a lot of stuff. So it is kind of funny that he's the bad guy for the people that hated Scrappy-Doo way back in the day. Even though he did kind of save Hanna-Barbera. Whatever. I'm not going to get into the history of Scrappy-Doo, but he was the bad guy. So the big twist was that the Mr. Montevarius, whatever his name is, was a robot being controlled by Scrappy. And the actual Mr. Montevarius was being like held underground, had a giant beard, played by Mr. Bean. Loved his performance throughout the entire movie. I thought it was good. Very creepy, awkward kind of guy. So the twist that he was a robot was cool. I don't remember how I reacted to it the first time, but I bet it blew my mind. I was not expecting that. But looking back, the whole Scrappy-Doo getting kicked out flashback, it made it pretty obvious. Now I know you kind of had to introduce him earlier in the movie so people actually knew who he was. He actually knew who Scrappy-Doo was. It didn't want it just to be like, oh, it's this Scooby-Doo character from that you've possibly never seen before if this is your first time watching Scooby-Doo. So it makes sense, but it was just really obvious to me. Looking back, it's like, wow, yeah, of course Scrappy is the bad guy. And, that also was kind of an old Scooby-Doo shtick, You can usually kind of guess who the bad guy is. And sometimes they get you, sometimes they don't. But the big plot hole is the Damon-ritis. So this is legitimately like a magic pyramid that I assume can summon these monsters that are, taking out people's ectoplasm, I think they called it, and putting a monster inside the body. How in the world did Scrappy-Doo get a hold of this thing? How did he find it? And how did he figure out how to use it? My cats are playing with bells. Hope you guys can't hear it too bad. But how in the world did he get a hold of this, like, potentially earth-shattering piece of history? I assume it was a historical thing. Like, his goal is to take over the world, and it's like magic. There's actual magic going on, and Scrappy-Doo just has it. Like, what? That was weird. That was, looking back, I was like, that was actually kind of weirder than I remember, because Scooby-Doo is all about the fake monsters. It's just a mask. So having real monsters is the natural next step for Scooby-Doo, and it was. They had like the straight to DVD Scooby-Doo movies, which I loved. I loved those. Expect an episode about those in the future. Holy moly, I love those movies. Hopefully I still like them. I haven't seen them in a while. But man, that was it was almost too out there that all of a sudden they're dealing with this like world-ending piece of technology. Like, Scrappy-Doo almost won. Who knows what his final form, very Goku-esque, would have been if he was actually able to sacrifice Scooby-Doo, get his pure ectoplasm into his body. Who knows what that would have been. It was supposed to take over the world, which is so crazy, and it was interesting. Just that no explanation whatsoever. Maybe there was going to be an explanation, but they cut it for time. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? How did Scrappy-Doo get the Damon-ritis? This super crazy thing that almost helped him destroy the world. How did he get it? And maybe there's some Googling I have to do. I didn't really look into that much whatsoever. I don't really look into a lot for these videos. It's mainly just me talking about my thoughts on it, because I love talking about movies. So, that's the majority of... that's basically all I got for this kind of movie. Summary, this movie just oozes a good time. It's so great. It's so fun. There was only 1.5 problems I had with it, which weren't big problems. It's a kid's movie. You can look past them, but like the completionist in me just wants to know. I want to know everything there is about this kind of stuff. So let me know what you guys thought of this movie. I hope you guys have seen it if you have listened to me ramble on about it, because there's no restraint on spoilers whatsoever. So I loved it. Tell me what you guys thought about Scooby-Doo, the live-action movie, down in the comments below. And if you really enjoyed this kind of chill out, talk with me about a movie kind of atmosphere, consider subscribing. I'm going to be doing a lot of these, so I hope you guys enjoy. I will see you guys in the next one. Also, if you want to let me know what to watch next, I'm open to movies and TV shows of any kind, as long as they're not too long. Like, I'm not watching like One Piece, which has like over 1,000 episodes. Mainly completed TV shows would be the go-to that aren't 1.5 million episodes long. So, I will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out. In case you guys heard during the movie, this is one of the cats that was making noise. This is Nymeria. Yes, it's a Game of Thrones name, and she seems a little camera shy. Maybe you'll see the other one at some point. But yeah, this one is Nymeria.